Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's all raise our hands up in the air, both our hands. We really call out with our whole heart, calling out for the mercy of Shri Shri Radha Golokananda. Let's loudly call out the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki, Harinam Prabhu ki, Hare Krishna. So, before we move on to the talk show, a few quick announcements. Next Sunday, we are celebrating Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra Maha Mahotsav ki. So, next Sunday at 4 p.m., we are going to have Jagannath Rath Yatra. It will be right here. We are going to go all the way from here across, and we have the big chariot, and the big deities are now renovated. They are like repainted and look very beautiful. So next Sunday, please do join us. You can come early. Cooking will start at noon. So if you like to help in the kitchen, please come by 11. I think by 11 cooking will start. You can come in the kitchen. They are going to cook a traditional Jagannath Puri feast. So it will be nice. If you like to serve in the kitchen, you can come at 11. Help with the cooking. Also on Saturday evening, there is going to be some preparation. So if you like to help from 3 p.m. onwards, there is going to be some cooking. So if you like to help on Saturday. And then on Sunday, kitchen seva is there. But also from 2 p.m. onwards, we'll be actually decorating the entire Jagannath Rath Yatra cart. So you can come early, help with the decoration, and it'll be a beautiful Jagannath Rath Yatra. So please spread the word, invite your friends, invite your neighbors, let everyone come and be a part of Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra. Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra Maha Mahotsav ki. Also, if you like to sponsor any aspect of the festival, the Artik, Jagannath Rath Yatra Artik is $108. If you like to sponsor the feast, the Jagannath Rath Yatra feast, which is traditional feast from Jagannath Puri, it is $301. Or if you like to sponsor the entire Rath Yatra procession, it is $501. So it's a very auspicious day to sponsor for the pleasure of Jagannath. So if you like to make a sponsorship, please let me know. Mother Leela Shakti is behind, you can let her know. So please consider sponsoring for next Sunday, Jagannath Rath Yatra. And also Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra are going to have new outfits. So you can sponsor the new outfit for $301. Okay. So that's coming up next Sunday. And the weekend after that, the July 4th long weekend, we are doing a retreat here with His Grace Amarendra Prabhu and His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. It's a 3 full day retreat. So if you like to register, please contact me. We have closed the registrations because we have maxed out our limit. But if you are local and if you like to be a part of the retreat, please let us know and we can add you to the retreat. Okay. So those are announcements. So without further ado, we'll have the talk show. And I would like to invite our talk show host, who's going to be Shweta Manjari. She's going to host the talk show. So let's welcome Shweta Manjari. And we request everyone, if you can kindly come forward, get seated as you sit for the class. Okay. So everyone can turn this side towards the talk show. And please take your seats. And those, please fill in the gaps. We always have so many devotees walk in during the class. So you want to make sure that they have space to walk into the temple room. So if you can please fill in the gaps and come as close as possible. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. Everyone together, just give us 1 minute to set up. Can you put the rubber band on this? You're going to sing? Okay, they're going to sing Jai Radha Madhava. But you can say something. Put it around this. This is your mic. Rama Rama Hare Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome all to New Goloka's Sunday Feast program. Today we have a very special program. We get to learn more and hear dear Ratna Radhika Dasi and her grace Shyamala Kishori Dasi share about their life, their inspirations in Krishna consciousness, and much more. So before we get started, we'd like to sing Jai Radha Madhava. So we'll have Ratna Radhika Mataji lead us in that. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Golokananda Shri Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Radha Mataji. So now we can go ahead and get started. Many of you may already know, especially Radha Mataji in the previous years, and Shyamala Kishori Mataji as well. But now we get to learn a little bit more about them. So let's give a premature round of applause for our illustrious guest first. Hare Krishna! Okay, so we'll start with introductions. So please tell us about your life up until this point and what you've been up to recently. Hefty question, but you got it.
Thank you all so much for being here. This is the first time that we're doing this, so we're a little anxious, but we're also excited. So thank you so much for being here and encouraging us. Before we start, we just want to offer prayer to Srila Prabhupada and get the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, because we wouldn't be here without his mercy, and Shri Radha Golokananda and all of you. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. So my name is Ratna Radhika Devi Dasi, and my spiritual master is His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami, and a lot of you may know Srila Prabhupada is the founder of ISKCON, and my parents actually met Srila Prabhupada, and they took initiation from Srila Prabhupada. So by Prabhupada's mercy, we had the opportunity as children to grow up in Krishna consciousness. We were born in Europe for the first few years of our life, and then we came to United States. Most of my life I was here in North Carolina. By Krishna's mercy, we went to school here, Gurukula, run by Mother Urmila, who is the mother of Champakalata, Devi Dasi. And after going to Gurukula, in my further studies, I studied education, like how to be a teacher. And I spent some time in Dallas, Texas, also Ujjain, India, serving my Guru Maharaj. And most recently been here in North Carolina, serving with my husband, His Grace Aditya Narayan Prabhu, in different services like outreach, book distribution, university preaching, and I've been teaching the children Sunday school and other programs like that with the children. So that is a little bit about me, and now I'll let my sister, my younger sister, she's not my twin. You may think she's my twin, but she's not my twin. A lot of people think that, but let her introduce herself.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I'm really happy to be back here in this beautiful dome temple that I grew up in. And whenever I come in front of Radha Golokananda, I feel very moved that they were so kind to me as a child. So, yeah, I'm happy to be with all of you. My name is Shyamala Kishori Devi Dasi, and I'm a disciple of His Holiness Indradumna Swami. And I'm very grateful for many Shiksha Gurus also. So, yeah, I left here after I graduated from college. I did undergrad psychology, and then I moved to Florida, and I've lived pretty much all of my adult life after college there in Florida. And so actually my sister has spent more time as an adult here in this community, but I come to visit my parents and my sister and regularly. And it's always really nice to be back. I'm especially happy to see all the people that I know from, there's so many wonderful new faces, but faces that I know, and I'm really so happy to see all of you. So, yeah.
Thank you. That was a wonderful introduction, and no reason to be nervous. We're so excited to hear what you have to say. So both of you guys grew up with Radha Golokananda, which is amazing, such a fortune. So since the 40th anniversary of Radha Golokananda is coming up, can you share a specific memory of growing up with Radha Golokananda? And maybe this time Shyamala Kishori Mataji can start.
So I came here when I was 7, and we had come from another temple where the deities were bigger. And so when I came here as a child, I felt like Radha Golokananda were very approachable, and the size, for children, like very, very approachable and friendly. And so I immediately fell in love with Radha Golokananda. And one of the things I loved to do was I would imagine how I would dress them one day if I was so fortunate as to one day dress them. And I would just picture the different ways I would put the outfits and the jewels, and it would enter my dreams, actually. So I would have dreams where I would be dressing them, and there would be the timeline, right, the deadline for the opening of the curtains. And I would have these anxious dreams as a child about, I'm not going to make it in time with Krishna's turban, and the things would be falling, and I would be running to find the clothes. And so somehow in that sweet way, they were engaging me in dressing them in my dreams preemptively. And then I'm really missing Mother Krishna Priya, because she was also a big part of my childhood, and she was just so dear to us. I used to tell her, I'm so excited to one day dress them. And so the first time that I got to be on the altar was with her. And she, yeah, I used to tell her, I'm so excited to one day dress them. And so her, and yeah, and how to, and it was just so special to have her there and guiding, and then also with my sister, actually, I got to follow you on the altar and dress with her. So the other thing I would say is that I have a memory of my sister Ratna Radhika. She would engage me and my younger sibling. She would ask us a little question after we would come to the morning program, because we used to come every morning to the temple as children. And then Ratna Radhika would ask us, do you remember what they were wearing? Like what was the color of their outfit, or what was the color of their necklaces? And that was such a sweet meditation that we had.
Yeah, for me, Shri Radhika Lokananda have been in my life since I was 9 years old. And like Shyamala said, I also felt that they were very approachable and very merciful. And I felt, even as a child, that it was easy to pray to them and feel a connection with them. And I also had, I can't think of Radhika Lokananda without thinking about Mother Krishna Priya. And my first experience also on the altar was with her. And my my memory of that is that she made me understand that it's not, they're not just, statues. Radha Krishna are really here, and we should be very, very personal and very conscious with everything that we do. We're not just, we're not just decorating something. We're actually decorating Shri Radha Krishna. So we have to be very, very conscious. And because she had such a personal relationship with them, also I felt like that rubbed off on me too, and I felt so grateful that I had that opportunity to have her guiding me in my relationship to Shri Radhika Lokananda.
I'll just add one thing related to this temple room. So there's so many new faces, new things about the temple room, but one thing I was noticing is this painting here has been there since I was a child, and I used to chant japa looking at this painting by Madhava Priya Devi Dasi. It's beautiful art of Radha and Krishna, and so that brings a lot of fond memories as well, this beautiful old painting.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing us to remember such an exalted Vaishnavi, Mother Krishna Priya. It's we grew up at New Goloka at different times, but my experience is very similar. When there's Radha Golokananda, there's Mother Krishna Priya, and even now, although we can't see her, even more so. At any time anyone is on the altar, Mother Krishna Priya is part of the reason, if not all of it, that they're there. So, Mother Krishna Priya ki jai. So what are some blessings and challenges of growing up in Krishna consciousness, since you both were growing up in this environment?
So for blessings of growing up in Krishna consciousness, for one thing, I felt really blessed that I was surrounded by my parents, devotee teacher, and so many senior devotees, disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So that association, and also the sound vibration. I felt like by Krishna's mercy, from childhood, we were able to hear a lot of kirtans, those days there's cassettes. I don't know if some of you don't even know what they are, but there are tape recorders, and we would hear there was a lot of things for children too. There was like audiobooks and songs in English, and somehow we were able to absorb ourselves in hearing a lot, which was, I feel very blessed to have that opportunity. And then because of that, sometimes we would enact the pastimes, like my sister and I would just, enact some of the pastimes of Krishna. And so I feel grateful for having the opportunity. That's all Srila Prabhupada's mercy, that we had opportunity to have parents who were very fixed, very steady in their devotional service, and who made Krishna consciousness something that was real, something that was that they were experiencing. We could see by their example that they were getting something out of it. So that inspired us, and in being surrounded by Krishna conscious sound vibration and being able to have that environment. So that's a blessing. But before I go to the challenge, do you want to share a blessing?
Yeah, I resonate a lot with those things that you said. And I'm also grateful that because we learned the philosophy of Krishna consciousness from a young age, it really helped me when I was going through hard times, like having that solace of Krishna consciousness, that spiritual solace. And even looking at the world through that lens, it's not an ordinary thing. I'm really grateful for that, being able to move through life with that. At one point, and I'll probably share about this later, but at one point I was going through my kind of trying to enjoy the material world phase, and I remember thinking, too bad I know so much philosophy because I can't really enjoy this material world. and it's a blessing, actually, right? It's a blessing. So yeah, just to have that real solace for the hard times when we lose people or when there's struggle, sickness, all those things. I've just again and again go back to that. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm also really grateful for all the loved ones in my life that I wouldn't have met without Krishna consciousness. All the mentors and friends, people from such varieties of backgrounds. I'm really grateful for that too.
So some challenges of growing up in Krishna consciousness. One of them, I would say, is that I know the philosophy, the lingo, how to explain things, but I felt uncomfortable how to explain it to people outside of Krishna consciousness, and that would make me feel like not sure about myself and how to deal with the world outside. But that kind of improved when I started to associate with people who had confidence in sharing Krishna consciousness, like when I started to get involved in university outreach, and there was some advanced devotees who knew how to explain Krishna consciousness in a relevant way to people. And then I realized, oh, it's not something that's just unusual and weird. It's actually something that's universal and it makes sense. And people actually really like it. It makes sense to people outside too. So that was one challenge that I was able to overcome by associating with those who had that experience of sharing Krishna consciousness. And then another challenge I would say was, like people kind of see you in a certain way, like, she grew up in the movement, and you kind of have this, people have this perception of you, and then you can kind of hide behind it and not be able to show your authentic self. And so that was something that I had to also overcome, like realizing that it's okay that I'm not perfect and I do make mistakes, and Krishna doesn't want perfection. He just wants me, like, to be who I am and just try my best to serve him. And even with close ones, I can reveal the things that I'm struggling with, and I can ask for help. And so that's something also that I went through.
I relate to that one. That was one thing that came to mind for me as well. The sort of masking to gain the approval of others, to make sure I'm like a nice Hare Krishna girl. I felt some of that pressure. And I was thinking about that, how when we go through challenges, it's a combination of external factors and internal factors. So as a movement, we've grown so much in maturity, and devotees have matured. The whole movement has matured. The earlier days, there was more fanaticism, more like black and white. You're either this, if you tick these boxes, you're a good devotee. If you don't, you're a bad devotee. And so that was the external thing that impacted. Internally, I was a people pleaser, like wanting to be nice and approved of, and so those two together made it so that I often didn't share the things that were harder for me, or the doubts or the struggles. And kind of what happens with that is it creates a sense of isolation. It starts to feel lonely. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that, when you're presenting a certain way, but you feel like people don't really know you and what you're actually going through. Yeah, it's like just trying to gain the external approval. So that's similar, I think. And then another one for me was growing up, some of the quotes in Srila Prabhupada's books were hard for me, challenging at times. And and the way that they were used, maybe by immature people, that was the difficulty. And so what happened for me is, as I got older, as I entered my 20s, and I really went through a period of trying to understand how to understand those quotes. And I had to ask for guidance and help on how to reconcile those things that felt painful. And then another, just a little simple one, is I loved playing mridanga growing up, and this was a very supportive community. We were always encouraged to do kirtan and play mridanga and things like that. But the mridanga was always on the other side of the temple room, and so there were many times that was a challenge for me, because I would have to go like from here all the way around to go get it, but usually by the time I got there, someone else had taken it. So that was definitely a teenage angst of mine. And then one other thing was when I went to college. This is also kind of humorous, but we were very sheltered and we went to devotee school. So when we got to community college and then university, it was, for me, it was quite a culture shock, and I think for you too, quite a culture shock, knowing how to deal with people outside of this bubble. And I remember there was one exam, like a quiz in Spanish and bubble. And I remember there was one exam, like a quiz in Spanish. And so she had us, we had to write about, we had to choose one of a list of pop stars, like current, and we had to choose one of their names and then write about them in Spanish. And I didn't know a single name on the list. So I had to go, it was a very embarrassing moment. I had to go up to the front and hand in an empty test. And I talked to her afterwards and explained my upbringing and like, didn't really get, we didn't watch TV. So yeah, anyway.
Thank you for sharing. That was comedic and also very inspiring and reassuring. I wanted to touch back on that point of that feeling of isolation, because we feel if you're growing up in the movement, it might be a common feeling that you feel like you have to not put on a mask, but maybe something of the sort. So I was wondering, how did you guys learn to grow out of that? Is it a change in association? Is it life events that made you realize that this is not how I want to practice bhakti?
I think for me, associating with people who were authentic, and that helped me realize that it was safe for me also to be myself. And I think just growing up just going through life, and as you get older and go through experiences, you get more and more comfortable with who you are. And yeah, I think that's for me, association with those who I was able to open up to. Yeah.
Yeah, I would add to that for me that, like going about my life now, I really try to get to know people on a personal level, and for them to get to know me as a person, not just a label, like, oh, there's a Hare Krishna, but like getting to know me and me sharing my personal realizations or personal experiences helps to break that they're going to just put me in a box or lump me in or something like that, to retain that authenticity. Yeah.
I really appreciate that answer, and it shows the importance of what we're doing now, like just sitting down and sharing. So you both grew up in Krishna consciousness, which meant that you didn't find Srila Prabhupada yourself. You kind of were born and he was given, which is beautiful, but it also means that you had to make Krishna consciousness your own. So how did that happen? What was your, this is my life? Like, when did you realize bhakti was yours?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So for me, and we all have our unique version of that. Even growing up in a religion or community, we have to accept it for ourselves. So it was actually near the tail end of my university days in undergrad that I started to question a lot, feel a lot of questions and doubts come up about my connection with the, not so much the essence of the philosophy, but more the components around it, like maybe cultural aspects, things that I didn't relate to so much, or rituals that maybe I felt I didn't relate to, things like that. I started to question a lot and wonder. And so there were definitely growing pains. I would say I went through kind of a dark night of the soul at one point, where I really felt I really had to, I was really untangling it and seeing what do I actually believe. And I went through a process of even visiting other churches and all kinds of Buddhist temples and this and that, to try to understand their philosophies and see if Krishna consciousness was the ultimate. And of course, I felt the most satisfied in Krishna consciousness, but I had to go through that. And then I went through, and I was asking, the one thing I'm very grateful for is that I had people I could go to with my questions and doubts, senior devotees. So I wasn't alone in it. I kept bringing those questions. I didn't just go away with them, but I brought them to my trusted mentors. And the other part of it I mentioned earlier is I wanted to try enjoying the material world a little bit. So I tried that for a little while too after college, and I felt very disillusioned after some time, and I was missing the association of devotees. And so when I went to the Holy Dham, actually it was my sister's wedding that year, I was back in India, and so I went to the Holy Dham. And I wasn't, even though I was feeling a little disconnected from everything, I prayed a lot there for obstacles to be removed. And this amazing sequence of events happened where I just was again brought into the fold in a way that really renewed my faith. And yeah, that's how it unfolded for me.
Yeah, for me it was not quite as dramatic as you had it. For me, I have a memory of when I was like 12 or 13. I was with my mother. My mother's driving me somewhere, and all of a sudden she just said to me, when are you going to take up Krishna consciousness on your own? Like, instead of just taking it just because we're telling you to. You need to open up the jar of honey, put your finger in and taste it yourself instead of licking the outside of the honey jar. And somehow when she said that, it just like really struck me so deeply. I was like, oh yes, I need to make the choice. It's not just because my mother is or my parents are telling me to do it. So I remember from that day, I just decided, okay, what am I going to do? And I just charted some goals for myself, like how many rounds I would chant and how many minutes I would read or something like that. I just made like some weekly checklist or daily checklist for myself. And I started on my own taking responsibility for my spiritual life. And I felt that was the start of that. Of course, there's still ups and downs. And then I felt like another changing point in my life was my Guru Maharaj is His Holiness Bhakti Churu Swami, and he was very, very, very kind. Before I took initiation from him, my sister and I approached him and asked him how could we go deeper in our spiritual lives? And he said, why don't you come with me to Europe and travel with me? There was a group of devotees traveling with him. So he kindly invited us to come, and we were able to go to so many different temples, hear his classes, render some service. And somehow that experience just opened up my view of the wider ISKCON. It made me convinced this is really something I want to do. And I want to, not only do I want to do this for myself, I want to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. I felt like connection to Srila Prabhupada really became strong. And I also decided to get initiation from that experience. So I must thank my Guru Maharaj for that second wave of commitment. So I feel like that was a very important step in my life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I like that you guys were both brought up in the same house, but you had different stories. So Krishna consciousness really is personal, and Krishna reciprocates with each devotee according to their own nature. So that's beautiful. It's also really nice to learn more, and the vulnerability so far I've really been appreciating, and the stories, but definitely the vulnerability. So a little bit more of a lighthearted question, fun question. What's a memorable service that you've done over the past years in Krishna consciousness?
So there's so many services. One memorable service, because sometimes when you take a service that stretches you out of your comfort zone, those are the most memorable, really stays. So there's one service that I was put into that really stretched me out. I was like just starting to learn how to drive. I just finished college, and I went to Dallas, Texas to help my Guru Maharaj, and he had started a business, a prasadam bar business, where it's like healthy nutritional bars that were sold in stores, but it's prasadam. So it's a way to employ devotees, also prasadam distribution. And so I was helping out with that, and what was involved was driving, not only driving, but driving big like vans in Dallas through traffic, and I'm just a new driver, and going to stores, like Costco stores, setting up and standing there giving samples to people, prasadam samples. That really stretched me out of my comfort zone like anything. But sometimes when you take a service like that, when it is challenging, you have no choice but to take shelter of Krishna, and that's why it's so memorable, because I was just praying to Krishna, and so many miraculous things I would see in front of my eyes from that service, because you're giving people tastes of prasadam. So sometimes you would see people putting it in their mouth, or like wow, what is this? What do you put in this? Like, and I go, that's just dates and nuts. But somehow they were, and then people would come back and like get boxes of them because like, wow, there's something special about this. And I could see it's prasadam. It's only because it's prasadam. So different experiences like that. So that's a memorable experience for me.
For me, it was also a difficult one. It popped to mind. It was also out of my comfort zone. It was the year that I was the title of it was Bhakti Academy Director at Krishna House in Gainesville, Florida. And what that meant is that the person doing that had to organize all the programs, all the events, and take care of all the residents, and then also take care of the women's ashram. It was like multiple things that I had to do. And that was very managerial. People were always knocking at my door asking for guidance and complaining and things like that. It was just also very much out of my comfort zone. But I feel so much joy when I think about it because it was really something hard and I did it for Krishna, and then coming out the other end of it, it feels like so much mercy comes when I step out of comfort for Krishna.
I like that when I asked this question, out of all the services that came to mind, it was the difficult and uncomfortable ones, which is, it's really nice to hear because I think that the more you do it, even though your mind doesn't want you to, the more Krishna sees that and reciprocates with that. And it seems like you both also like grew from it, like your character as well. So I guess it's a message to take uncomfortable services. So that's very nice. Thank you. So what's something like a service that makes you feel connected to Krishna?
Yeah, two things come to mind for that. One is, there's 9 processes of devotional service, and we're all gravitate towards specific ways of connecting to Krishna. And for me, prayer is big on that. I love praying to Krishna. I love specifically writing letters to Krishna or Radharani or Chaitanya, whoever I'm feeling like I need mercy from and want to connect with. So I do a lot of that in my journal, write letters. And then another thing is one of my favorite activities in Krishna consciousness is reading scripture with friends and discussing it and how does it apply to our life, making it relevant, making it relatable. And doing that with friends is the best, I found the most satisfying way to have friendships, is to keep Krishna at the center like that. It just brings so much joy. And I have a group that I'm part of, a weekly ladies group, and we are going through the Bhagavatam together, and we take turns facilitating every week, and then guiding the discussion and sharing. And so it's really, those friendships are really deep, actually.
Yes, I can resonate with the prayer one. That's definitely something also that helps me connect to Krishna. And then I would say the holy name. Somehow, like I love kirtan and chanting the holy. I just feel that the holy name is very available, and that wherever I am, the holy name, it can be there with me. And I must say that relationship with the holy name is a growing process, and I feel so grateful to have been in association with devotees who showed me what it is like to really relish the holy name, to really chant with absorption. I remember the first time I went to a japa retreat and seeing His Holiness Giriraj Swami. I was able to chant. There was like a japa circle, and he was chanting, and I was watching him chant, and I was seeing how it was almost like he was tasting the sweetest sweet. He was like relishing the holy name so much. I was like, what is there in the holy name? It's so sweet that there must be something there. Then I went back and I tried it. It made me want to go deeper and see how I could also maybe develop more of a relationship with the holy name. Either in a personal level in japa, which is personal time with Krishna, or kirtan, which is very, very powerful because you're with other devotees and you can hear their sincere voices calling out to Krishna, and you can really pour out your heart. So that's the way that I feel most connected to Krishna.
It sounds like you opened up that jar of honey and started tasting it. So I'd like to ask you guys more about japa and prayer, such beautiful ways, such heartfelt ways to connect with Krishna. What has your journey been with these two things, especially the holy name, because that's something at least I sometimes it's up and down. So has it always, since that workshop, has it been easy to connect? Or has it been ups and downs? And how do you best bring your mind back to the holy name?
Yeah, it's definitely been ups and downs. It's not been it's the mind is there and it's always distracting us, pulling us away different directions. I'm so grateful for yearly retreats also that we've been going to, Govardhan retreats, and association with advanced devotees like His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj, who help us to again and again remind us how to take shelter of the holy name. But it's definitely a journey. I find that if I just decide that, okay, regardless of how my mind is, how I'm feeling, what's happening in my life, I'm just going to commit this time for Krishna. And I feel that when I just make that commitment, whether I'm feeling good or not, whatever my mind is going through, I feel something happens, some reciprocation, some strength, inner strength comes from just deciding I'm going to make this my priority in the day, to spend time with Krishna and the holy name. So, yeah.
What helps me is, because there's definitely ups and downs in my journey with the holy name, what helps me is making it prayerful. When I chant in a prayerful mood, with remembering that Radha and Krishna are persons, supreme persons, and I have a relationship with them, and I can be in that prayerful mood, then suddenly it becomes alive and it's not dry anymore.
I really like that, connecting to the personhood that is the holy name and committing yourself to that person. So thank you. So inspirational. I'm taking notes mentally. So since you both grew up in ISKCON and your parents are Prabhupada disciples, do you remember anything fun from the early days?
One of the things I remember, especially in the early 2000s, was the kirtans at the Festival of Inspiration in New Vrindavan. So they started, when New Vrindavan started this yearly festival called Festival of Inspiration. It was just filled with so many amazing senior devotees, Prabhupada disciples, and the kirtans were out of this world. I feel like there's just hard to describe. But I remember, especially one night, Radhana Swami was singing, and devotees were literally running up the walls. I don't know how they did it, but they were like running across the temple back and forth, and then like running up the wall and down. It was just so much bliss. And yeah. You want to add something?
Yeah, I would also say the kirtans. I have never experienced kirtans like that. It's like the whole temple was jumping continuously for hours. That's what it felt like. And seeing Radhanath Maharaj, Sachinand Maharaj, Bhakti Tirtha Swami. I don't know if any of you have his style of dancing, and those kirtans have an impression in my heart forever. And somehow another thing is like the melodies and the old style Hare Krishna melodies that we don't hear so much nowadays. Can you think of a melody?
Yeah, Bhakti Tirtha Swami would sing this one. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yeah, and then because we were growing up with so many Prabhupada disciples, they would share with us so much nectar of their experiences, not only with Prabhupada, but also just the early days in ISKCON, so that we were practically living in those days because we were hearing so much about it. Like our father used to say, they would have a Sunday feast, and you know how usually we have kirtan, katha, and then Sunday feast and everyone goes home, but they would have kirtan after the feast. So he said those were the best kirtans. He said, because everyone's kind of intoxicated with eating wonderful prasadam. So then he said, like, those kirtans, like he said, he remembers one time that the floors were like bending because people dancing so much. And yeah, anything else?
Yeah, I think he shared that one time the devotees would eat so much halava and they would get like almost drunk from the sugar. And one time that he remembers like opening his eyes and like all the devotees were, because devotees would kind of pass out sometimes with the, with the excitement of it and the sugar rush. And yeah, something else I was going to say about that, but the prasadam, there was specifically the early Hare Krishna recipes from the early cookbooks. I'm sure that, Purva Prabhu and Kamali Prabhu. So, and just those recipes were something special. Like lots of butter and garanga potatoes. There was classic garanga potatoes, and then we had some recipes that we had like American names for or versioned. Yeah, do you remember what? Well, it's like Indian preparation, but with an American twist to it. Like we call them malpura, but it's like a sweet dahi vada with strawberry. You know, right? But I don't think many people would relate to that. And that thing is an ISKCON recipe. And another one was Simply Wonderfuls, which is made of powdered sugar, milk powder, and butter. And then there's another, peanut butter halava, yeah. And then we call them luglus, which is not a name. It's not an Indian name, but but it's basically bundi ladus. But somehow because devotees couldn't understand Prabhupada's accent when he said, they thought it was luglu. He's saying luglu. So in ISKCON, that's luglu, right? Those bundi ladus.
I like how the sweetness of the holy name had you running up walls and bending floors, and the sweetness of the prasadam had you almost drunk and passing out. Sounds like a very wonderful time, like a party for sure. You guys also had your own little language with prasadam, a whole different level. Wow. And it's also so sweet how you had that association with Prabhupada devotees. So beautiful. So, talking about Srila Prabhupada, what is one quality of Srila Prabhupada that inspires you?
Yeah, one thing I really admire and appreciate about Srila Prabhupada is his ability to interact with and inspire people of all different backgrounds. Quite incredible. Like the varieties of people that came to Krishna consciousness, so different. They would never have met under normal circumstances, but Prabhupada was able to reach them and inspire them and connect with them. And as a result of that, I just feel so grateful to Prabhupada, because when I reflect on everything and everyone that I hold the most dear in this life, there's some contact with Prabhupada. They've had some, that somehow is connected to Prabhupada. So everything that I love in this world comes from Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, it's so hard to think of one thing. Srila Prabhupada, so grateful to Srila Prabhupada for everything. Something that stands out to me is the power of Srila Prabhupada's words. Basically, because of his books, his words, this world has changed, and so many people have gotten affected. And even in my life, I've noticed that when I go through fog, I just don't feel, enthusiastic. Just put on one of Prabhupada's lectures, and immediately he cuts through the sound vibration of his words. It just cuts all that fog out, and I just feel like, okay, perspective comes back. Or I just read a page of one of Prabhupada's books, and it brings me back. Okay, this is the goal of life. And that's the power, because he's from the spiritual world. So everything every word that comes out of Srila Prabhupada's mouth is so powerful and can affect the consciousness so much and uplift us. One more thing I was going to say about that. Anyway, I forgot, but yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I really like that line that everything I love is from Srila Prabhupada. Like, Yadi Prabhupada no hoita, what would we do without Prabhupada? Who would we be without Prabhupada? So, and the words, like his books and his lectures, like they keep us grounded when the tendency of the material world is to make us float this way and that way. So, thank you so much. So what keeps you going when you face difficulties in life, spiritually and materially?
What keeps me going? When I face a real hard time in my life, I pray to my Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and just meditating on them and thinking about how they would respond in the situation and praying to them for strength. I feel that immense strength comes from praying to the pure devotees. That's how I feel. And another thing that helps me also is journaling, because when you write things down, then you can kind of see, you see, okay, this is what's happening with my body, and this is what my mind is going through, the emotions, and then this is the situation that my life is going through. And then when you can kind of see things that, and all that's not me, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the situation, I'm separate. And then just from that journaling process, it kind of helps separate myself from that. And then if I'm able to duck under all of that and take shelter of Krishna, it's a very, very powerful way to help myself get out of the loop of distresses that can come in life. Yeah.
I have a very vivid imagination, and I like to dovetail that in spiritual life. So what I like to do when I'm going through difficulty is I picture myself in a holy place or in front of a deity that I specifically love, or a personality, maybe a samadhi, a person that I want to pray to. And then I just call out and just like pray for help. Like, please help me. Sometimes I just say it out loud. Have you ever done that? It's just, help, Krishna, I need help. I can't do it anymore. It's just so hard. Life can be so hard sometimes. And the other thing that I do is I go to somebody that I can trust, a loved one, and I share what's going on for me. And both, whether it's materially things or even spiritual doubts, whatever's coming up, go to someone and I get help. I've done that with my sister, I've done it with my parents, done it with other friends and mentors. So, yeah.
I love how both of you turn towards the devotees, like mentors that are here now and pure devotees. And I think what you said about like the mercy ultimately comes from Krishna, but the mercy that his pure devotees are conveying to us, it's, oh my gosh, so much reciprocation. And I really like the way you describe journaling. I hear it all the time, journal, journal, journal. But I like how you said that it's your body and your mind on the paper, but it's not you. You're separate from it and you can duck under it. Like the imagery is so nice. Duck under it and take shelter. And I like how you're calling out like a different imagery, like hands in the air, and like both come from feelings of like dependence on Krishna and calling out in whichever way is most natural to you both. So that's so nice how dependence on Krishna is your go-to. Like that's the perfection of this life. So that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing and giving us ideas on what we can do. What is one piece of advice you'd give to children growing up in Krishna consciousness today?
I would have two. One is find at least one person that you relate with, someone that you look up to, that inspires you, that you look up to, you feel like I can trust that person, and that you can go to and you can be fully yourself with, and be fully open and sincere with, and that you know that they can help you. So at least one spiritual person in your life that you can do that with, that you can be yourself with. And then the other thing is find at least one way to connect with Krishna that inspires you, or one service that you like. So my father has this really inspiring phrase that he likes to share. It's called never zero. So don't ever go to bed with 0 things done for Krishna, right? At least one. So at least one. And this really helped me in remember I shared with you my struggle, like the time period when I was having some doubts and some confusion about my relationship with this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. What kept me going is I always had at least one person I could share with, and I always had at least one thing that I connected with, and I held those very dear. So that would be my words, yeah.
I would say the same thing actually, what you said about find a role model in your life who's a good devotee and that you just really admire, and serve them, talk to them, be around them, and that's so powerful. And then find a service also that you like to do for Krishna. And then one more thing I would say also is keep the spiritual sound vibration going. That's why Shishika Prabhu's thing. So somehow or other in your day, keep some spiritual sound vibration going, because that can keep your consciousness up. So listen to kirtan or some lecture that inspires you, something spiritual that can keep you above the ordinary, that pulls us down. So
Our association and what we consume really does have an impact on us, even if we don't realize until later on. So thank you for that advice. Our last question will kind of be 2 in 1, so that we have some time for questions from the audience. But the first part is, what's a recent realization you've had in Krishna consciousness? And the second part is, what are projects in ISKCON that inspire you, and what would you like to see put more energy into in the future?
Recent realization I've had in Krishna consciousness is that so much stress comes from trying to put ourselves in Krishna's shoes, and that we don't need to be in that. We can just be who we really are, which is a servant. And I was thinking about the verse, Bhoktaram Yakatapasam, how let's imagine there's a triangle, and then in the center is where we really belong. It's just, I'm here, I'm a servant, I belong, I'm actually made for rendering a devotional service to Krishna. And when I try to go into one of those 3 of the triangle, like trying to be the controller, trying to control my life, trying to overplan, then anxiety comes. Or I try to enjoy, like how can I be happy? Problem, stress. Or if I try to be the best friend, like, oh, how is everyone liking me, and am I whatever? It's worried what people think about me, then stress. But if I go back to the center, like Jiver Surup Hoy, I'm just a servant of Krishna, and just see how I can best serve. I serve my Gurumars, serve the devotees. How can I best serve from the situation I'm in? That's a realization that I've been trying to, apply in my life. And please pray for me that I can practice this.
I'd like that on a poster so I can put it in my room. That was so beautiful. Wow.
One recent realization I've been having is that Krishna is far more loving than I can ever imagine. And that sometimes I get in my head, I think, oh, Krishna's being harsh, or he's judging me. He's not. He's not. He loves us, and he sees all the struggles. He knows we're little tiny jivas. He knows I'm little tiny jiva trying, and I keep falling, and I need help, like that. But he's never like scolding or harsh. Krishna and Srimati Radharani are both so loving. And also connected to that is, in spiritual life, there's room for self-compassion too. That if I am always harsh and berating myself and negatively scolding myself when I make mistakes or fail, then I'm going to tend to do that to others too. So the harshness I have towards myself tends to come out as harshness and judgment of others. So if I can give myself a little grace and go, Krishna loves me, and I'm trying, and I'm imperfect, and I'm never going to be perfect in this conditioned world, but I'm going to keep trying, give myself some self-compassion, then that pours out as self-compassion and acceptance of everyone else. So when I can be a little kind to myself, I can also be kind to others, and vice versa.
I like that your answer was like based off of unconditional love, coming from Krishna first of all, and then also giving that love to yourself as well.
Okay, so the other question that you asked. So I'm currently, for the last decade or so, I've been involved with the Krishna House in Gainesville, Florida. And it's a center connected to campus, like university there. And there's always new people joining, and I just love that project so much. I love to see new people come, and I get to share Krishna with them, give classes, or mentor the devotees there. And another project I'm part of is the Bhaktivedanta Institute, which is an organization that's geared towards bringing together science of philosophy, philosophical science, and then also Krishna consciousness. And it's geared towards people who are intellectual or who are academic and want to understand how this works and how it's legitimate, right? So those 2 projects, I'm involved in them because I love so much to be part of things where Krishna consciousness is made relevant for people, and that it's made accessible, and we can reach people of many different backgrounds. That's like real brings me so much joy and happiness. And what I would love to see more of is, in the future of ISKCON, is more mentorship programs. I think that would be really amazing. I've been able to be a mentor for young devotees, and it's just one of the great joys of my life. It brings me so much happiness. And I would love to see more Vaishnavis, especially, stepping into mentorship for younger devotee girls, because it's so needed, the wisdom of the elder Vaishnavis in this community and around the world.
Yeah, so projects that I'm involved in working with children, and I feel that's the most such an important project, because the children are they're the ones who are going to be the next generation. So it's something definitely that I hope that will become a strong foundation, that more will be offered for children. That I also really would like to see more maybe retreats for youth that help youth find their internal connection with Krishna, kind of way that they can internalize their spiritual life instead of it being an external thing, how to bring it inside and find that time where, okay, this is really something I want in my life.
Yeah, I really I like those answers, and I like how they're focused on like the youth and children. It really resonates that this is the future generation. So Ratna, she was my Sunday school teacher, like, what was it, like 15 years ago? And so it's true, like how much the service really impacts. Like I can endorse. The service really does impact, and I think also since both of you grew up in Krishna consciousness, you realize how much mentorship and retreats for youth, like how much it helps them as they grow into their adult life. So I agree with how important those things are. So thank you so much for such an enlivening talk. I have learned so much about you both, and I think it was nourishing for my own spiritual life. Thank you for opening up, for sharing fun stories, and for giving so much a mini japa workshop, a prayer workshop, like for giving so much wisdom as well for us to take into our spiritual life. So let's all give a big Haribol to Shyamala, Kishori, Dasi, and Radhika. Maybe we can take one question if anyone has.
Hi Krishna, it was really a treat hearing both of you. My question is a question or comment, something like that. Like how you said, never zero, like how your father inspired you. Would you elaborate a little bit more about that? Like what zero means? Because in as soon as we enter here, like the Matsya, it expands. So we have our 16 rounds, we cannot get away with it. And some things like offering, it's also for Krishna. And though we definitely do it now at my stage, I do it, cook it for my family or myself, my taste, my family's taste, not yet there for Krishna cooking. But can you please tell me what's that zero means? And then I really, really appreciate your second point, what you said about self-compassion. If we are not compassionate on ourselves, then that reflects on others, like it goes